know you're clinging to the light of day, to tell you everything's a-okay. And medication don't do much, yeah, it just numbs the brain. Guess you might say I'm a little intense. I'm on the bright side of being hell-bent. So, take it from me, you're not the only one who can't see straight. If you were ever in doubt, don't sell yourself short. You might be bulletproof. Hard to move mountains when you're paralyzed, but you gotta try. And I'm calling out, get up, get up, get up, move on. Get up, what's taking so long? Get up, move on. Stop stalling, I'm calling out. Get up, move on. Get up, ain't nothing wrong. So I believe you can be whatever. And I agree you can do much better. Trust me. Everybody wants to sing their song. So Marvin Gaye, what's going on? Ain't nothing normal when it comes to you and me. I'd rather twist myself in knots and watch you give up on your dreams. If you were ever in doubt, don't sell yourself short. You might be bulletproof. Hard to move mountains when you're paralyzed, but you gotta try. So I'm calling out, get up, move on. Get up, what's taking so long? Get up, move on. Stop stalling, I'm calling out. Get up, move on. Get up, ain't nothing wrong. So I believe you can be whatever. And I agree you can do much better. Trust me.
Yeah, I don't know why I never talk about it. I guess that's probably part of the problem. Yeah, sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're right. I'm just gonna keep moving. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep moving. Today, tomorrow, another day.
Get up, move on. Get up, what's taking so long? Get up, move on. Stop stalling, I'm calling out. Get up, move on. Get up, ain't nothing wrong. So I believe you can be whatever. And I agree you can do much better. Trust me.
Okay, I'll get my boom of my microphone down. And need to make sure for this scene. Okay. Input, capture. Okay, and everything else looks to be muted. Let me try testing. Okay. So how's my audio levels? I'm still kind of rushed. I went through and I I started playing the song and I didn't have the USB end plugged in to the system, so it's sitting there playing, and I don't know. It's part of this. So I hope we're set up here. I tried to, Jesse. Welcome to everyone. I've saw that everybody chatting away and everything else. It looks pretty good. Okay, thank you. Thank you for telling me good audio. Um, I just grabbed a Mul 30 EduQuest, and I hope it's got the ROM DOS in there. I hope that the one I pulled out late yesterday, the thought that I was going to work with that. I looked and it's a different model, and it didn't have the ROM DOS. So I I was and the main thing on these is how the that Dallas module, the real-time clock chip going out, and I had to look to see if I have replacements for that, or if I do a live mod. I'm looking for the right bit here because I'm thinking I hope that's the right one. Just to get inside this thing to look and make sure it is. And I mean, we could go through and start it up too. And the one thing you'll notice is that the EduQuest in particular really, okay. Why is that just spinning wheels? Do I need? Yeah, change the bit because it looks like it. I guess I could go through and get. Yeah, get myself off screen there. And that way, oh, okay. And it looks like somebody even tried, they couldn't get that screw here. It almost looks like they pried at this side over here. And I promise that wasn't me. Oh, my field of view. And I don't know if they realized it, but there's a third screw. It's in the top there. And that is still tight. Well, Louis Olin would like this. He was talking about the Model 25 bolt downs. It looks like this would also have on the EduQuest, have to where you could bolt down this case the same way as the Model 25. It does have the T-lock opening there. But this case, and I was about to say, you'll notice the yellowing on these EduQuest. I said it wasn't me prying at things, but maybe I'll have to go through and pry at things here. Just to, and I should have been more prepared for any difficulties. And there's not a way to pry it. Wow. So that's really starting the stream off wonderful. I wonder. These trays. Yeah, I'll bet you that was it. Yeah, there's a screw on the underside. I've never been aware of those. It is here. And apparently on the other ones I've opened up, I didn't have that screw in there. That's a final, just shows you that once it was closed, that it hasn't been opened since. So, yeah, these EduQuest cases sure yellow a lot more than other IBM models. And of course, this has the M-Wave card on it for sound. A little bit dusty inside. Not too bad. Now, I'm just trying to go through and not stretch things too much. I don't believe that this has a hard drive, since it does have the network board. It's this is an EduQuest 30, has a 386. Yeah, it's got the empty bay. These and these EduQuests are designed really nice for all the power and drive connections, of how they have the bays underneath a little bit more easier to access than the Model 25, of course, being smaller unit. And so it doesn't have a hard drive. It's got the network board with, of course, the Ripple ROM to boot on an I-class system typically. And I got this in a school lot. And I was about to say, I know of the locking screw for the network board. Besides the bracket screw, there is a screw on the back because it's a shorter bracket, and these network boards, both the Ethernet and the token ring, are designed to also go on the Model 25SX. They have a narrow point of connectors that matches up to the back of the 25SX exactly for either the token ring or the Ethernet board. So in the reverse mount slot of the 25SX, it is always designed for a network board. And Major Tom has a link to the Ethernet board of the EduQuest. There's your limited space that they're in for the connections out. It's got an RJ45, so 10 base T and also the 10 base 2. And then it's got, and Tom even commented, says that it's got the jabber light, the jabber LED for that. What I'm wanting to do is just to pull off the board so I can see I probably need to get a picture. I think Tom has it marked on the page that that bracket is shorter and has a screw for being a reverse mount. And the other reverse mount adapter is the EduQuest sound card, M-Wave, just like the M-Wave adapters that were put on the Aptivas. Okay, so there I've got the Dallas clock chip that's there. I need to go through, and it's got a date code of 93. Yeah, 9303. So not quite 20 years old. And this has the ROM DOS. In fact, we're going to do this. Once I've got my Anchor webcam that I talked about on last night's stream. Well, and these EduQuests have been in a basement for the last 2 decades at least. And so let's do, well, I could probably do, let's drill, time for some links. Okay. Yeah, these have been in a basement too. And yeah, and again, the trivia for the EduQuest is that the model is spilled out. So here is the, and I realize on Tom's linking that he has it just as a number rather than spelled out 30. But I mean, you do what you can for the web stuff, not. And I don't know why IBM spelled them out rather than had them as a number, just to maybe keep them from being confused with the PS2s, maybe. And on that page, Tom actually does have the ROM DOS images that I sent him at the very bottom. And so that's got all the planar information, and we could do it like this. I didn't even get myself back on the screen. Okay. So there's the EduQuest 30 page. Let's get myself back on the screen. And then I talked about the diagram. And I think for the 35 that IBM just went through and replaced that 386 SLC CPU with the 46 SLC2 CPU. And that was the only effective modification between the 30 and the 35. And then at the, as I say, at the bottom, we have the ROM DOS and the ROM disk. Oh, and he even did the talking about the text that's on the labels there as well. But what I'm going to do here is that good? What gets the tail part of my, okay. So I have to see what, you get to see some of the items that I have off to the side here. I planned to do more videos last night and just ran out of time. Yeah, that does, that anchored webcam does real good there. You can see the keyboard controller. You can see the two ROM DOS and the ROM disk. And then you see that DOS module. That DOS module is a questionable thing. And this, so this being the Mall 30 does not have the video out. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to try okay. We're going to try getting just putting the adapters in there. I mean, I can do a little bit of dusting in the interim as well. But I'm going to have to get the monitor. Oh, and I wanted to get out the put away the keyboards and mouse. I wanted to have a keyboard and mouse out for getting this thing started up. And I tucked those way back. So I'm gonna have to get me mouse and keyboard. Okay. And not okay. So I'll have power when the time comes for that, but I've got to get a keyboard and mouse. So I'll be right back with that. And hopefully I'm grabbing mice at work. The EduQuest keyboard. And at least the mouse I grabbed has a ball in it. Okay. And make sure that we're yeah, you can really see the yellowing on the front, the side and the front. And, you know, that could be sun bleach or whatever. And it's all the plastic panels. Get to see, oh, yeah, nice reflective CRT. Okay, we get video. Checking system configuration. There is a problem with your configuration. Please run setup. Direct the configuration. This doesn't work. Press You can hear all the racket otherwise. You're seeing refresh that I'm not seeing, of course. Okay, standard checksum. Yeah, my keyboard has a space bar that goes through. Okay, change value, change. Okay. Okay, after you. Change value, change. Set current hour. Okay, there's the option ROMs. Okay. Oh. Is my space bar still? Is that why it? See, because I don't. Okay, there we go. So it's just these keys. Wow. This space bar is really. So internal CD-ROM. There's none. Yeah, that cursor key. Okay, it's time for that EduQuest keyboard. It's not real good. So it's time for a heavy duty Model M. I have to get worked around. Yeah. I'll get my trusty Model M keyboard here. So I can get a little bit better reaction on this. And see, I don't even know if that keyboard plug is sure tight. Oh, come on. Okay. Wow. What a difference the keyboard makes. Okay, so Yeah, I don't need to be exact here or anything else like that, but it helps me keep track of time. We're up to the 19th. And see, I'm just guessing whether this has an ability. Numlock at boot. Auto detect. Okay, so Shadow BIOS. I can see it actually better up on the other screen. Oh, look, we've got, so over here, we've got boot sequence. First, second, third. And test memory at power on. Display boot information. You even have disk protection. Wow. See, and we've got that network boot. So this is kind of a good order. Doesn't have a fixed disk. Now, I'm hoping that this real-time clock chip, see, the source of ROM DOS INI config sys and auto exec for ROM DOS is on that ROM disk. I don't want a password. Yeah, it says no password, at least, I guess, for that thing. Okay, can we do a page down? Okay, so that goes back to our original. Okay, so we're going to do escape. We're going to do a save and reboot. We're going to make sure that that Dallas module is good. And we just want to continue. So this should go through and it should attempt the diskette first. And that ROM DOS second. I had it marked for. So minimum, so it's got that audio driver in ROM DOS. This isn't the fastest thing in the world, is it? Okay. So as we saw earlier, this thing has no hard drive. Why is this just? So there's your future domain. That's why that future domain copyright is on the ROM disk. Yeah, this is just, why is this like super slow? For each level of So what I'm going to do, let's actually get, I mean, we're successful without even replacing that. Okay, what I wanted to do. Okay. Okay. So I'm just looking at, that does pretty good for. So we've got our drives. I don't know what it marks out as the, so there's our, even programs. See, there's, even let's do, S mouse. This thing, yeah, like I say, it seems like it just takes forever to do any command. I just selected that S mouse for the mouse driver. Existing mouse driver enabled. Okay. So we have our, and I guess the Edu menu is this program. And then of course the CD-ROM driver, checkcdbit.com, bootdone.com, and then your autoexec.bat. So I think the next step is we go to our command.com. Okay. And we get that's DOS version 5. Well, I sure wish that were and that is pegged for the intensity. That does pretty good for being more viewable with the, and that is even the contrast all pegged. I'm just trying to give, I wish it were darker in here. I've got the sun coming through on the east side as well. So not really much difference from, in fact, I'd be surprised. It looks like just a basic, there's your ROM DOS. So we can do internal so there's your ROM DOS INI. Yeah, it's going to do, like I say, we know the version 5, but it doesn't have really any much to the much to the DOS at all, really, of any programs. Or see, there's your future domain cd.sys. RMS CDX. I didn't see what came on the screen with the minidd.sys. I wonder what that. And just it really was that was funny that it doesn't go through and boot that quick. I mean, that was just pretty pathetic performance. But I guess that's just a way to go through and to boot to that ROM DOS. That was slower than, and I don't know if all this is necessarily probably it might even be compressed. So that evidently does some sort of check whether the CD is maybe installed on the system as a way to inform the system. So, but for all that, for all the stumbling I did otherwise, we booted to ROM DOS. The goal of the stream, although it's pretty dirty and we get a reflection off of the screen. I mean, for me doing video capture, I wish I had an external display in a way. There'd be ways to go through and to tee off that video. Yeah, feature domain is a SCSI controller, and it's even interesting that some of the and they're owned by Adaptec now, or Adaptec is Micro Semi is the name of Adaptec now, and so IBM even had in some higher levels of the EduQuest had a feature domain SCSI controller right on the board. So let's look U19. That's Cirrus Logic. I'm looking through for the other. In fact, let's go through. Probably do it like that just to get it. I'm looking through for the other on the other EduQuest malls to see like the high end, the EduQuest 55 has 72 pin SAMs. It's got a coin cell battery instead of the Dallas module. And it, in fact, that's the one I think I have off to the side here. I looked at it first. And then, okay, so the ROM BIOS. Okay. And I don't see on the EduQuest 55, I don't see a sockets, any sort of sockets for the ROM, the DOS-in-ROM. Yeah. So yeah, they did have other devices other than their SCSI controllers, but IBM used Future Domain. In fact, for the PS2 line, they rebranded the Future Domain SCSI adapter as the Patriot. The MSC-700s are can be rebranded as a Patriot, and then it doesn't even have the power tap on it and things like that. And those are put in the Lacuna systems, Model 77, for to add SCSI in. But we've got a very discolored EduQuest 30 that is running ROM-DOS, and we're finding out that that's just nothing really fancy. Well, I've encountered it in the past, Hugh, is the reason that I know it, and I've forgotten a lot of the details that I know too. So I wish we had a video capture to pull it up, but that that startup was nothing to write home about. The time it took to go through and boot to that. I always assumed, I thought it being the DOS-in-ROM, I thought being in a ROM chip would make it a faster performance, but I guess it's just a rudimentary way of getting into an OS otherwise. And it'd be interesting from the diskette drive to run a benchmark program. And I'll have to go through, and I do have to work with that that Dallas module. I even planned on video. I thought, well, if it was bad, I could go through and I could pull it, or I could put in another module that I'd already modified. But I guess it's fine. I want to look through. For the what I have of the. Okay, so I got a couple Dallas chips there. Have more Dallas chips there. All this is batteries. Batteries. Wow. So the question is whether I have any of them modified. Probably not. Okay, we're going to do a look. And these are probably these are the DS-1220. So this is, and there is 3 of those things in there. This is like what would go on a Model 65 SX planar for the extended CMOS. And I also want to go through and put these on a 55SX to go through and enable extended CMOS on a Type 2. One of these pins is tweaked. Go through probably. I need my little screwdriver. Boy, my vision and that pin is just. Where do I have a little screwdriver? But yeah, I want to go through and play with 55SX planer at some point and put one of these modules on it for the extended CMOS, just to see how that works. Thomas went through and checked out the 55LS BIOS, and it does go through and support that. And it might be a kind of a different sort of 55SX as it is. Trying it that way. And these are probably the DS. Okay, no. These are, okay. These are the 1387s. So paging Kevin Moonlight. And I would hope that those would be the 1387s that I try out. They've seemed like they've had, for all the extra non-volatile RAM current draw, they still seem good to me for some reason. Okay. Got strange batteries for some reason. We do have. Now I need to go through and modify these if they're so saran wrap on oh, that's more DS-1220s. So I really need to go through and use those. And I've got some Dallas modules. I even went through and started working on that one, I guess. Expose the battery leads. I didn't go through and sever that negative lead. But I got some more modules and I'm not storing them right, so I've got a little bit of bent pins. But some modules I need to go through and modify to get those working. And I just go through an assembly line and I modify one and get it ready. And then I go through and swap it in with the system and remove that one that's on the system to modify in the future. And then I've got all my I've got battery holders. Drop that down there. Okay, so we got another 1287. Yeah, it's time for me to go through and modify some of these. Get some of them working. So there's the packages that I buy. That's one of the battery holder types. Then I've got the other battery holder types. And so I got enough to modify. And then I've got, these are just a real cheap coin cell. You can put the higher quality stuff in there if you want. I've got even some old, there's the Energizer level. So I've got batteries, I've got all the components otherwise, a wire and little solder. Even there's some spare battery holders there. These are kind of like the slot. I call them like if they were fastened down on the top of the real-time clock chip, you just slip it in, and if you could glue it to the top, and then you have the leads on the back. I came up with one way for even cutting into the package a little bit to where this is in a recess on top of the chip, and if you had these glued, then you could stick in the coin cell, and you just kind of hang off the edge there. And then these are the on top of these are the ones that people use quite a bit for on top of the chip, coming up with the design that has the real-time clock chip just on top of the module. Makes it a little bit higher, and that doesn't work for some systems that need a kind of a low profile. But it'd be interesting to run a benchmark on that and see what level of because it's got the 386 SLC. And so I do have I do even have some videos on even a real-time modifying. In fact, I thought for the live stream, I thought, hey, I just go through and I could pull out the Dremel, and in fact, it's interesting that for looking at the live stream, the thumbnail it's showing right now is me holding up one of the Dallas modules. But I had a video of the process, and so going through and scoring the side, or if I put that one chip with the Dremel, you just have to remember the positioning. So here's the unmodified chip, and you just take it by the idea of the pins. The battery leads are underneath these. If you look at the one side, they're underneath those pin positions, and you Dremel in until you hit on enough of a battery lead to solder onto. And what I do is, this is the negative side, and Peter Wendt has a real good page on that. He was the first one to modify these. I just drill in to sever the battery connection, because the battery actually sits up on top in the module. And this one's a good demonstration, despite all the bent pins, of where those are slotted for the battery leads. And it's good practice to sever the one of the sides of the battery. I think the severing the negative lead is easier than the positive, and then you just solder on one of the battery holders. I was doing it even reversed from so I was doing kind of sandwiched on that and just going out little wire leads up to that back of that battery holder. And you have to realize that on the upper side, the 2 pins are both positive. This lower pin in the middle is a negative lead for these battery holders. And so you just insulate or bend those pins after you've soldered them as a way to fasten on. But yeah, I need to go through and modify more of the modules. Yeah, and I was going to get ready to put a link up, but I've got one of those. Search terms was under Dallas. Okay, yeah. So okay. And so then, and we're just looking at EduQuest, Sean. In fact, I've got some, I guess, a couple of EduQuest promised out at this point. One being to Sean. I'll get to that. I've got some pretty heavy shipments that I got to send out here real soon, and that should be the start. It says the start to finish. And I've got some other modding videos as well for those Dallas modules. But we went through, and so Sean, you joined a little late there. We went through and we booted to the DOS-in-ROM, and it was slow. It probably has to uncompress the image on the ROM chip, because it just wasn't anything to write home about. And really, it's not there for probably even any sort of a functional DOS version. In fact, it'd be interesting to go through and boot it to have a CD-ROM on the unit, boot it to that DOS-in-ROM, and then run a program on the CD. Of course, you'd have all kinds of room on the CD. You know, and just to check on the performance. Yeah. And so, Russ, I'm really happy to see you again. In fact, Lewis sent me an email when you came back on and you posted on the VCF forum. He said Russ is back from his I don't know what he said, on the pirate cruise or something like that. So he was happy, I think, to see you on the VCF forum, and so was I. I don't get on VCF as much as I need to be onto the forum, because there are people that ask for assistance and everything else. Sometimes it gets to the point of directing them to the where we can be most active on the Facebook group. but a lot of people out there don't do Facebook. And so good to see everyone in the chat and see some context. But and Peter went. It's probably been a few months since he was on the SIF news group. He does drop in from time to time, but it's not really active on it anymore. And Lewis post on there, and then the new faces. You're not as familiar with Thomas and other more recent additions to the SIF news group. So yeah, run Doom. And oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Sean. I hope that you feel better soon. I've of course always have things going on too. I should have been a little bit more prepared for this, but we accomplished the notion of what we wanted to do to boot to DOS-in-ROM on the EduQuest, and Thomas has those images up on the Ardent tool, although I don't know how that could be kludged into a system, and probably was of the form that IBM was able to put it on there, even the MS-DOS version, not the PC-DOS version, onto that those ROM chips, and the that it wouldn't necessarily be any thing that people could pirate or anything else or put on another system to work well for them. This just looks like a real basic setup, and I don't even know how I would go through and modify that INI file to get it to run. I think we saw it when it started up, it tried to run for the it did try and run the CD-ROM drivers in the feature domain, and I've got feature domain SCSI adapters around 8-bit or ISA that I could pop in there. That'd be really interesting to see, to go through and boot to boot up in this ROM DOS and then go to CD-ROM and see, since it shouldn't have to uncompress the image at that point, it would be probably perform a lot better. So yeah, and I was familiar with it. So I had a Tandy 1000, and that is a laptop, and that is an 8088 CPU that's on the Tandy 1000. And to boot to, you could go through, and it had a diskette drive, it had the ROM and the DOS-in-ROM, and that was even a pretty good performer otherwise, that you booted up into that DOS-in-ROM, and kind of cool to where you could work with the system quite a bit. I used to pack the thing. In fact, I've got it somewhere around. The battery, of course, is not worth anything now, but it was in real good condition. And I even thought it'd be kind of cool if you had like a terminal program, because to be able to console into things, because it had, I think, like a serial port, parallel port, the real standard stuff back then. And so I've gone through and I've run it from those. I just wanted to see what it'd be like on the EduQuest, and so now we know. And Yeah, and I'm talking about there, or at least what I had was the laptop. Um, it's a gray, just a clamshell laptop. In fact, it's probably the same size as the mid-range ThinkPads were, like the ThinkPad 750s or whatever, 755 CD, about the same size as that. It just was an earlier model, I think probably, I don't know, as early as 80, I think 83, 84 was probably too early for something like that. It was, but it came out maybe 85, 86, something like that. And there may have been desktop models that of the Tandy that had that DOS-in-ROM too, but I'm not familiar with them. I didn't have any unit like that. And so, um, all that. So, but I was glad the stream turned out pretty good for all my lack of preparation. I've got other videos that I need to churn out too. I've got a couple big boxes that came in, and as always, of course, the need to get organized. I've got a lot of stuff lined up here otherwise to do videos. And so, yeah, and the compact flash, in fact, we just dealt with that in my unboxing video that I did before from Tech Select. I have the compact flash adapters, and so I'll be going through and using those at some point as well. But I wanted to see the ROM and DOS. It's gonna be DOS-in-ROM, and see how it would boot. See what there was to it. On the system, we don't have a hard drive, so it's kind of cool being able to get to an OS. It didn't go through, and I could go through and use the system for iClass as well, as an iClass client, but for all that. So I'll have to see what topic I look at for this next weekend, but I'll try and keep some lively stuff keep coming and try and do a little bit more videos during the week as well. So that we can keep people entertained with some of the things I'm looking at right now. And I'm going to do I'll be doing a video on capture the CGA video capture. And so but that's not going to be a live stream. I'll just do a video on that and hope to get that going and look over things like the PC convertible and other aspects there. So, yeah, I think they were complete. There were some malls that were even completely diskless that had, even like the PS1s, I think that there was some of that was the initial screen and everything else was all in a ROM rather than on disk. And so, but we'll get working with this year a little bit more. I'll get it cleaned up and everything else. And I've got to remember to keep on top of getting some stuff sent out. I'm actually kind of delayed from getting some token ring stuff into the hands of Ken Sheriff, and so he can go through and do some disassembly. So, but happy to see a lot of people in the chat. I think we've gone through. It's been an hour, and of course, I had a little bit of delay in starting. But we've been going an hour and 15 minutes, so it turned out to be a real good stream. Look to see people around. You can go through and keep chatting for a little bit. I think YouTube will lock it down once I go through and in the stream here. But I've got to go through and get some breakfast in me and get moving on to the day. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the live stream as well. So this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.